Hi, everybody. Welcome to Level. And today we're going to be looking at the new poster format, which is kind of exciting. This was really cutting edge stuff, maybe like 3 years ago. But as I was just explaining to Deanne, I went to submit a poster for the Gerontological Society of America because my abstract was accepted. And the requirement is that you now follow this new poster format. So apparently this is going international, so everybody needs to be kind of up to date on it. And so this is not your, granddad's conference poster. It's very different. But I love the guy who invented this whole thing. I love his attitude and his vibe. And so instead of explaining it myself, I'm going to play his animated video. It's like the video itself's about 20 minutes. We're going to watch like 5 or 6 minutes. But it should allow you to kind of get a sense of like, why are we even doing this? So this is my intro. We're doing the new poster format, getting the most out of conference presentations. And we're going to talk a little bit about the problem, right? It's a blurry picture, but that's essentially how I feel at conferences often. There's so many people there. There's so much to do. The poster sessions themselves are even more chaotic than that. So we're going to go to this link and let's see. There we go.
We can't hear it.
Oh no. You can't hear it at all?
I can't hear it at all. I think there's a place where you have to go to share your thing with the sound.
There is. I'm kind of wondering if I can, because I know that it's embedded right now. And sometimes that can be complicated. So I'm going to stop sharing for just 1 second. And I have it pulled up as a video. So let me see. And we are still recording. So in the interest of time, what I'm probably going to do is just give you this presentation. So you can see it right there. Can you see my slideshow?
Uh-huh.
And I'm just going to kind of explain it, I guess. But I will definitely drop this link because what a fun video. And he basically talks about how when you go to present at a conference and, thousands of us, tens of thousands of us do this every year. Even with COVID, we were still creating this stuff. It's really disappointing as a presenter and also a viewer, because as a presenter, you have all of these like good thoughts about the research that you're doing. You feel really optimistic about it. You were able to find one really small, interesting thing that fits on a poster, and you're there to like share it. And you're also kind of hoping that other people will ask you about what you're doing because you're excited about it, but it's also kind of validating, and maybe you'll get some insights and you'll be able to like collaborate with them or whatever. But that's actually not how this usually goes. Usually what happens is you go to these conferences and, you stand in front of your poster for an hour and nobody says anything to you. They like walk by trying not to make eye contact, or somebody will walk up and start reading it. And then you're standing like 2 feet away going like, hi.
Awkward.
Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for any questions, and then they feel pressured to ask you a question because, we're not like total sociopaths, even though we're scientists. And so you end up having a conversation that, maybe it's enjoyable, maybe it isn't, but it's not authentic because you're prompted to ask for social engagement reasons. And then sometimes you spend more time there than you intended to, or it's a topic that's not really relevant to your science. And so then you've wasted a lot of your time, and you usually have like, I don't know, hundreds of posters to go through. So you end up like scanning really quickly through all the rest of the aisles and not really getting the information that you need, or you start kind of coming up with a game plan of like, I'm going to go up this side and only look at those two. I'm only going to, and I do this all the time. I'm not going to stop in front of a poster that doesn't have the word diabetes in the title, period. Because there's lots of things I'm really interested about, but like, that's not my field. So if it's like, this rural water project that you're doing in Uganda, that's super interesting. Like I want to read it, but I can't let myself because I'm on a timeline. And so this is basically how it works. And the person who was presenting spent all of this money to go, had all these hopes. And then, they think about how they spent like $100 or more to print this poster, and you end up throwing it away. Or if you're me, I use it as a drop cloth for painting. Like, you know, it's sad and it's demoralizing. And if you're on the other side of that, you're a scientist and you're looking to, you go to conferences because papers take too long to publish. So we want to get kind of the latest, what's happening in our field. You're there and you're really hoping to interact with somebody and hear about the latest stuff. But you get caught up having an accidental conversation with this guy who looked sad and desperate. So you're like, tell me about mitochondria, right? And so then, like, you know, you just get looped into these weird situations. Or maybe there's a poster you really want to see, but there's already like 5 like gigantic like Swedish guys there. That happened to me once. And they're like blocking the way because they're having conversations not about the poster. And so like, it was just, for me as an attendee and also as a presenter, always really frustrating, because I felt like there's so much science in this room and important stuff, and I'm missing it. And this guy, Mike Morrison, his point is that like our science is standing on the shoulders of not only giants, but each other. And because of this process, we're missing out. And our progress in our field is really slowing down. And when you're talking about fields that are related to healthcare, it's really, really upsetting that, you know, our progression as like a species is slowing down because the places that we're supposed to collaborate and collect knowledge are just not working for us. So that's what this video is about. It's much better than I just explained it. It's cute animated characters and the guy is so down to earth. You just love it. But that's the problem. And so, you know, like I said, poster sessions often look like this. And that even is not as many people as there are when I usually go to GSA or to some of the other big conferences that are more than just nursing conferences. It's jam-packed and you just can't really, like, I don't get very much out of it. Every once in a while I will, but I always kind of, you know, either regret that nobody really asked me the right things and nobody was really there for the interesting topic that I thought was interesting, or I didn't really make any connections that are going to kind of change things. And, you know, and that's why we do this. That's why we go, is to be in the company of other scientists in our field and kind of understand what is the zeitgeist around whatever research problem it is that we're working on. So these traditional posters, and I de-identified them. You can tell they have some big black boxes on them. Oh my goodness, my dog is acting up. They're just not really conducive to learning, at least not when you're like going up and down these aisles really quickly. And they're also, because of the way that we have limits on, you know, like a lot of the titles have to be like 70 characters or fewer. So you start off with this like beautiful long title and you keep cutting it and cutting it and cutting it and cutting it and cutting it until it doesn't even make sense anymore. It's like nothing but like internal jargon, weird nonsense that like is meaningless. So I randomly pulled up 2 scientific posters off of Google assessing the value of real-world evidence in melanoma and health technology assessment appraisals. Like, what? Like, what does that even mean at all? The only word that meant anything to me in that was melanoma. The rest of it, I was like,
assessment appraisal.
I didn't see, that's the thing. An assessment appraisal, is that a health technology assessment appraisals? I don't know. For me, I'm just like, is this like a computer science thing? Is this like an app-based intervention? Is this a tumor measuring tool? Like, I just didn't get, like, I know what you were interested in, kind of, but I'm not really learning anything. There's no big take home for me unless I actually stop and engage and try to read this poster. And there's a lot of stuff there. And so then here's another one: high impact inclusive learning organizations, evidence-based strategies in higher education. Again, I like, that doesn't really tell me anything. Like, it tells me what you are, or like what the setting is, and then what you were kind of going for. But I'm not getting like a big win or a take home or something that, like, let's say I was also in a higher education space looking for evidence-based strategies. It would trigger me to maybe look at this, but I wouldn't be able to scan by and go, oh, they're just like, you know, updating the grappler, you know, intercept theorem or whatever. Like, there's no way for me to look at this without reading the poster and really understanding, like, is there value here for me? And the reason that matters to me is because I do diabetes research, and like, so do like millions of other people. Like, there's so much diabetes research. that my method of just going like, oh, I'm in higher education, this says higher education, or oh, I'm in skin cancer and that says melanoma, it doesn't work for me because there's so many different ways that you can look at diabetes that, you know, more than half of the posters aren't really relevant to the little bit of time that I have. So these are 2 posters that I did last year. And this is the new style. It literally is the main poster, like attention drawing section of the poster is the middle section. And the middle section says in one sentence, what is the most important thing that you're going to learn if you engage with me? And so I've mentioned that I do diabetes. I also look at burnout, right? So this first poster is correlates of provider burnout, right there, may decrease eye exam frequency among Latinx older adults. So if you care at all about how provider burnout impacts something, or if you care about eye exams and Latinx adults, or if you care about, again, retinopathy, things that need to be followed up pretty frequently, and you're worried about that in a particular population, this is immediately triggering you with some keywords. And it's not just a title, it is the result. So burnout decreases how often you get your eyes checked. That's good to know, right? But all it's meant to do is stop you when you're walking through this big area, and you don't have to talk to me if you don't want to. You can scan my QR code and it will take you to a paper that I've written, or a write-up of all of my findings, or a write-up of a normal conference presentation, or the abstract that I submitted for this, and my personal information. So if you are interested in that topic and you want to hang out and talk to me, cool. But if you don't want to hang out and talk to me, you have all of my information and my latest research. So you can get a hold of me later, or you can look me up and, Google me later and try to understand, where am I coming from, and am I somebody that you want to collaborate with? Or you can just say, I'm somebody who studies retinopathy, and I'm really interested in how do we prevent retinopathy? And this person appears to be doing something similar to that. So I'm going to, snap this QR code, and when I have time, look into this a little bit more. So we're still forming these relationships. And same thing with the one on the right. What we know about how providers influence flu vaccine uptake among Latinx older adults might help with COVID-19 vaccine dissemination. That's the answer right there. It's not the title, because the title was influenza vaccine uptake among underserved Latinx middle-aged and older adults in South Los Angeles. That's not what I'm saying. That is what this is about, but this is the most important thing that you need to walk away with. Same thing with the other one, connecting patient or provider burnout to eye exam frequency among older Latinx adults with diabetes, right? So the new style of the poster is to take the most important finding, make it big, add either an image or a QR code or something else that's going to catch people's attention. And then on the sides is where you can put additional information that would normally go on a poster, but you don't even have to respect the never go smaller than 36 font, because it's not for people to read. It's for you to reference when people come up and ask you questions. So on this particular one, I don't know that it's gonna let me zoom in. No, it doesn't. But on the methods continued right here where it says variables, I actually list all of the variables that were in that multivariable regression that I did, and how I divided them into patient or provider burnout, right? So if somebody comes up to me and says, how did you measure provider burnout? I can point at something. But, that's just kind of on the back end when you're questioning my methods. So, my goodness, it's loud over here today. So why is this more effective? Basically, because you can scan the room quickly. It really turns down the emotional pressure and volume on you seeing people standing there like awkward, twiddling their thumbs. It allows people to link to a document that they can read later when they have more emotional and mental bandwidth and they want to just kind of go back to it. It also shifts the focus from questioning to connecting. And, we train our students when they go, doctoral students, you're going to go for know this poster inside and out. People are going to really challenge you on this data. That's not how we should be interacting with each other. It's not like the kinder, gentler, more modern version of science. In science, we really should be collaborating and encouraging each other to consider other, alternatives, really using this like abductive reasoning. And we're not there to be like, haha, gotcha, that's the wrong way. You should have used a Poisson's regression. Like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing to each other. And if somebody asks you, hey, can I answer any questions? I'm here if you need anything. The temptation is often to try to come up with a question that's going to make them think and stump them, because you feel like that's the transactional nature of that interaction. But it's not. It's really about allowing people to see what another scientist in their space is working on, making those connections so that you have kind of a longer term investment with each other, and you're able to learn what each other do and how can I later collaborate with you to move the science in this space forward. And I think that that's better when we don't set up this adversarial immediate, like, yeah, why did you pick this? Like, come on. So really, it's more in alignment with why we go to conferences in the first place, just like moving the science forward, opening up our minds, remembering that you're a scientist in this space and that there's this international group of people that are also trying to solve the same problem that you are, which I think, is better spirited, I guess is the right way to say it, which is another reason that I really like that approach. So how do we do it? You just place the most valuable takeaway in the center. And there's something really good for us as scientists to be forced to identify what was the main thing that I got out of this. I submitted an abstract recently, and I got some feedback on it. And what I think they didn't quite understand was that in my scientific program, I do really try to substantiate something and then use that to build my next thing and use that to build my next thing. But there are also many other things that I discover in that preliminary study that I know, but I don't push forward. I make a judgment call and say, this is the most valuable thing that I learned here. And therefore, this is what gets published. And I'm going to move on to the next step, given that this is true, little t true. But there's tons of other stuff that never sees the light of day. It lives in my brain and it lives in papers that aren't published, but I know that it's there and it changes me as a tool for science, right? But the idea of being able to overtly say, while all of this other stuff is going on, we are just focusing on this one thing, allows you the freedom to let that other stuff go. And some of it is really hard to let go. I've definitely worked with people who have even their dissertation written up, and they're looking to publish, and they're like, but it's like, I don't know how to turn a 300-page paper into a 9,000 word, manuscript. And that's the answer. What is the most valuable takeaway? Not all of the other stuff. That true is findings, but it's not the most important thing. So once you selected that and you highlighted the words that are like the key words that are important that you want to jump out at people, pick a good picture or a graphic that's also going to catch people's eye. Use a QR code if you know how. I have a subscription service that I use for QR codes because I use these pretty often. But you just want to make this eye-catching, easy to snap, even if what they're snapping is just the finding and then your contact info. Just make it easy for somebody walking by with their phone. Make sure that on the sides you add your background data and support for the people who do still show up to question. Because some people, this is their joy. They show up to be like, why is your p-value like 0.1? Why isn't it 0.05? And you have to have this whole discussion about like, well, p-values are imaginary and like, right? You don't want to have to do that, but sometimes you have to. So just make sure you've got your backup information there. The most important thing is that know what you're talking about and be ready to engage for like the, kind of the jerky people that are there to question you, but also the people who are really there to see some new, exciting, passionate work that's happening in this space. Because interactions with people who are from your field, at least when you're presenting posters, is a job interview. They're really checking to see, is this person legit? And if they are, is this somebody that I want to call the next time I'm submitting a big grant? or talk to them next time I'm working on this specific methodology and I'm not an expert, but I'm going to see if I can get them as an independent consultant, right? Like, this is your chance to kind of show people that you are that person. So you really want to be like dressed professionally, but comfortably, ready to talk, you know, have eaten lunch, and just be kind of ready to engage. And do not, no matter what, say to anybody, "Hi, I'm here if you have any questions," because it marks you as someone who is not getting very much attention for your research, as a relative novice in the space. But it also forces people to put you under a microscope, and we don't need that. So let them come to you or not. The other good place in conferences to meet up with people is to just go to a talk and hang out afterwards. If it was a meaningful talk, you can talk to the person who presented, or just hang out to see who else hangs out afterwards, and, you know, get those kind of casual interactions and connections that way, which I think are also really valuable. And this has already started, so be ready. Like I said, when I was doing these posters like 2 or 3 years ago, it was kind of, people were like, "What is this? This is kind of weird. I don't like it." But again, GSA, which is one of the biggest conferences that happens annually, they were like, "This is it. This is the format. Make sure that you've got it ready that way." So be ready. Mike Morrison is the guy who invented this hashtag better poster. There is the YouTube link, and I will put it in our resources in the team site. But it's definitely a fun video. I'm sorry it didn't work out, but it's definitely worth watching. And I think that is it. So I am going to stop sharing. Oops. And what we're going to be doing also in this space is just kind of catching up and answering questions for anybody and all of that kind of stuff. So any feedback on this particular part of it, Deanne, before I stop recording?
No, I thought it was, I think it's a really good idea. I could totally connect with that whole conference thing and the picture of just walking down and just looking. It never did occur to me just to pick one word and not look at any poster. I would just like, but I think that would probably be, that probably should have been my strategy all along, because I would walk, there's never enough time to look at all the posters that you want to look at. So what you're saying is that all posters now are going to have that main format, but they don't have to have a QR code. I can just have the picture with my contact information. They could snap a picture and contact me later.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people just do their contact information or try to do some image that, because people also get burned out reading as they're walking. So they'll have like a picture of, you know, like a Latino family holding hands or something when they're doing like Latino community health or whatever. But I like the QR code just because, do you remember, I don't know if people stopped doing this, but when I first got into academia, people would print their abstract and thumbtack it to the poster display. And there would be like 10 or 20 of the abstracts, and you could just take one. So loud here today. And so it was nice because I just remember feeling so much less pressure, because I didn't have to stand there and read the whole thing. I could just kind of like read it, maybe introduce myself, and then take a thing and say thanks. And then I could see them later. And yeah, so many of my colleagues I've met at conferences, but there is always this awkward, like, oh God, posters are rough. So, all right, well, cool. Definitely check out the video if you can. Like I said, I will put the links in there. I'll actually put it into chat, but I'm gonna stop recording right now. But thanks everybody who tuned in, and we're gonna hang out for like another 10-15 minutes just in case.